Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours with 10% off using code FD10. Follow the links in the description below. Well, look who it is. The prodigal 75 returns, dragging his head gasket between his wheels, wooden trim in his hand, begging for a favour. Wouldn't you know it? You try and bring them up good, and what do? Well, this one, unsurprisingly, and I really do hate to play to the cliche that Rovers do blow their head gaskets, but if the wrong head gasket is fitted, then there are incidents. And unfortunately, that's what's happened to our old friend here. Now you might be asking, where's this car been all this time and why is it back on the channel all of a sudden? And the answer is quite simple. The idea was that last year when I bought it at the beginning of 2023, it was part of my trading up series. It's a fantastic car, low mileage, it was mid-50s mileage and I put a couple of thousand miles on it. I traded it for a Fiat Idea, I believe. Inevitably absolutely fell in love with the thing, and instead of flipping on immediately after doing a bunch of jobs to it, I kept it far too long, and ultimately at the end of the year I decided I've got to get rid of it. So at the beginning of this year, I think it was, I asked my friend Wayne at Stone Cold Classics if he would take it as like a sale or return kind of a sale, see if he can get a decent price for it, basically market it properly, get it out to an enthusiast. Anyway, before he'd got as far as sticking it on the website and marketing it for sale, it was cleaned up and looking absolutely spiffing. Yeah, the inevitable happened. It blew its head gasket. Not badly. He was road testing it and he noticed the temperature gauge did a funny thing. He pulled over and all the water had run out of the header tank. Fortunately, it was very close to home, so it got back without any issues. And he got parked up in the back of a shed at his new place up near Bicester, which is about 2.5 hours from here now. Which is a shame because it used to be around the corner. It was brilliant. So we thought we'd organised a mobile mechanic to come and do it, but there was an issue and he never arrived. So the car just sat for a very long time. And then I was thinking maybe I'll come up and do it, but it's a 2.5 hour drive. If I get there and discover I've left my 10mm socket or something stupid behind, I've got to drive 2.5 hours back again and then 2.5 hours back again. So I'm already 10 hours into a job where I haven't lifted a finger. So I didn't want to be doing it up there. Then I was thinking of maybe trailing it to another place, maybe sending it to John Coupland. Just swap it on John Coupland's drive and tell his dad that the head gasket's gone again, and maybe his dad would do it for me without noticing the number plate's changed. In the end, I decided the most sensible thing to do would be to just get the thing trailered back here and I'll do it myself. If you want a job done half-assed, do it yourself. I think that's what they say, isn't it? So, knowing what I knew to expect, I reached out to DMGRS, Discount MG Rover Spares. Really great company who do a lot of work keeping these kind of cars on the road, and asked if they could help me out with this, and they have very kindly sponsored this video in the form of a box of goodies. So we have got, ready to go on, obviously, a new head gasket. This is the BW 750 kit, which is the new one which doesn't blow again. You do it once, do it right kind of deal. So that is going to make things better. I think that's the same one we stuck onto the 200 VI, and that's been running without any problems. Every problem we've had with that car since then has been a separate problem. That problem hasn't reared its ugly head again. We've also got a new timing belt, because obviously we have to take the timing belt off to do this job, and the timing belt was last on this car I believe in 2018 or 2019. It's only done a couple of thousand miles since then, but on age alone it's definitely time to replace the belt. And anyway, you would never change a head gasket and not put a fresh timing belt on for the, what is it, 25-30 quid for one of these belts. It's insane not to. Also making perfectly good sense is a new tensioner, and even more good sense I believe we'll find that this is a water pump, because these are all the good things that you always do when you do these jobs. The while you're in theirs, make sure you cover them all. Now I've not got the auxiliary belt, but I'm pretty sure, I'm probably going to prove myself completely wrong and regret doing this, I'm pretty sure I changed the aux belt on this when I did some other servicing last year, so it's a fairly new belt on there, I'm pretty sure. I stand to be corrected on that. So thanks to DMGRS, lovely guys, super helpful, very knowledgeable about anything Rover, and they carry these things in stock ready to go at the drop of a hat or at the explosion of a head gasket. Right, now let me talk you through why we know this is what it is. So a couple of things to mention. I have off camera already made a start on this. We'll jump to that in a second. The battery, which was new in summer 23 when I went up to the motorist in Yorkshire with the breakdown service who came out to fix me, thought the battery was broken, but it wasn't the battery that was broken, so that was a waste of 100 and whatever pounds from Halfords. It was a Halfords 3-year one, but it failed last year when Wayne had it. He took it out to put it on charge, and when the truck came to come and collect the car, he forgot to put it back in, so the battery is currently in Bicester. If that battery won't take a recharge, I'm kind of happy because it is a 3-year one, so it's still under warranty. All I've got to do is find the receipt and get a fresh battery for the car, which is good. Secondly, when the guy was taking the car off the truck, I don't know how he did it because I wasn't here. I need to go and check my security camera footage, but somehow he managed to slightly pull the front bumper off, so I need to go and get that bit sorted out because that's going to be an issue. Now, a couple of things you would normally expect to find when you've got head gasket failure. First of all, take the oil filler cap off and you expect to find mayonnaise, but this is just the usual dry blackness of an OK engine. Secondly, get my dirty hanky out. You'd expect to find mayonnaise on the dipstick, and the dipstick level looks reasonable, and it all looks like shiny black oil as well. So hopefully, if we've got a failure, nothing too terrible has happened. Yeah, we've got bang on level, lovely clean oil, because I did a full service on this thing, well, about a year ago I reckon, but the car's only done a couple of thousand miles. But the thing you can look at here is that this header tank was very empty. I've brimmed it. When that's running though, let me show you this. And also I'm going to have to jump start this because this is the old battery out of the Punto, I think, because I haven't got an 075 spare at the minute. Oh, come on, car. It could probably use some fresh fuel, but you see how easily and quickly it fires up. The thing that's kind of a giveaway, firstly you might see white smoke at the back, but this is more of an obvious one. This is the coolant in there, maybe too low to show now. When I rev it, as it comes down, you start seeing bubbles coming back through there, which suggests that there is blow-by in the gasket. So it's not leaking oil into the cylinder, but combustion gas, exhaust gas is coming out into the water jacket. And then potentially water is also going into the cylinder as well. I'm seeing a couple of small bubbles. When that was brimmed, I was seeing a lot of bigger bubbles coming out of it. There is still quite a lot of old Mercedes under the back of this car at the minute. I know it's still on cold start, but that does look quite steamy and smoky, and it does actually smell a little bit oily as well, so perhaps we have got issues down here. Now that we've more or less established that we have got a blown head gasket, and I've got the bits to fix a blown head gasket, do I leave the car exactly as it is here now, because it means I can walk straight in and out the garage to get tools out, or do I flip it around, put the nose up against the fence over there so I'm under cover when it rains in a minute? Oh, this interior is still so nice, and it still smells exactly like it did before. It's lovely. It's like coming home. This is the real wood dashboard I fitted to it, thank you to a viewer. This is the real wood steering wheel, which, did I buy that or did it come from a viewer? I think I bought one and the viewer sent me one that was the right colour. Oh, it's so nice. It is like coming home. Perhaps the worst part of this car coming back is the fact I've got to say goodbye a second time. The thing about giving it to Wayne to sell for me was that it took all the sort of painful emotional part of selling a car I really like away, because I'd already sort of handed it over to a friend, and it's not something I'm going to see again. It's just gone out of my life. When it comes back to me again, and it's all coming back at how much I like this car and how much I like 75s in general, and now I've got to make it perfect again and then push it off into the sunset again. For someone like me who gets really kind of attached to cars, that's kind of a hard thing to do. Oh well. Right, that is all fixed now. I've even cleaned up inside the seam so it looks nice when you look at it from an angle, like I'm a proper concours detailer. I've got little tiny spots there I need to get touched in, but that's something to deal with at a later date. Stage 1 procrastination complete. There you go, I had to flip it around because otherwise I've not got access to that front corner. I need probably to take that wheel off, and I definitely need to be jacking up that corner in order to get the engine mount off. So I've turned it around, but it does mean though I have had to park it at a really wonky angle so I can get in and out the door, because this silly wind-up door thing has broken yet again. It works, but it's not winding up. Every time I push the motor to wind it up, it now blows the fuse. Stupid thing. Right, so finally I'm cracking on with this job, and I say finally because it's only been a matter of seconds for you. It's over a week later, because the first job when it comes to doing this particular task is to take the front wheel off so you can get to the crank pulley and the timing belt, which is all hidden, where's the light? Down here, behind this arch liner, which obviously, I've got to say, does make the car feel like it's from several generations on, from working on the R8 and the R3. This feels like leaps ahead. It feels like you're working on like a modern BMW, a modern car, compared to, well, 90s cars, which feel like generations ago. Anyway, the reason it's a week later is because the first thing to do is take the wheel off, and for some reason, the locking wheel nut was missing. And I don't remember ever taking a wheel off this car when I had it previously, and I spoke to Wayne, the dealer. He had no reason to set the wheels off or take the locking wheel nut out. The guy who moved the car down here, he had no reason to do that either. So I have no idea where that locking wheel nut went, whether I took it out and put it somewhere safe and it got lost, or if it was never had one in the time I've had it. Anyway, I had to order one off eBay, and they're all different numbers of splines, so you have to find the right spline number and match it. Fortunately, the same pattern is used on a current Mini, so I was able to get one of those for £8 off eBay, wait a few days, and now I can start taking this apart. And there are so many fixings on this panel here. There are all these fixings. I've not even got a couple of them out still because they're still soaking in Bulldog to try and free them off. Technically I think I should be undoing these ABS warning lights as well, but if I do that I'm worried they might not reconnect properly and have a never-ending ABS light if I do that. But yeah, there we go. So with this thing pulled aside, we have access to the crank pulley, the aux belt. So maybe I didn't do the aux belt on this. Actually, that aux belt does look quite cracked after all, so I will be replacing that one. So now we can finally crack on properly. The arch liner is finally out. Turns out there was yet another fixing just here behind the strut. You have to turn the wheel hard to the outside, to the right on this side, to the left on the other side to reach that one. And I had to break out the heat induction tool to get one of the screws out. Would you believe it? I'm only like not even anything into the job itself at all yet, and already the heat induction tool has come out, so you can sort of see how well this is going to go. And also while I'm in here, the while I'm in here list is starting to grow as well. I'm noticing it's a little bit dirty in here, so this is a clean up and a clear waxing. The brake lines need sanding and painting. They're going to get advisory on the next MOT, so I can sand and paint them. And this front subframe, you can see where the plastic's been on it and nothing's been touching it, getting some surface rust, so I'm going to have to make sure that on both sides of the car that's done as well. So my while I'm in here list is getting longer and longer for a car which in theory I should be flipping imminently. I think maybe the car knows that as soon as it's fixed it's going to be up for sale, so I think it might have deliberately lost that wheel nut itself because it knows it's going to get looked after here. So first things first, go get the auxiliary belts off. First one is the, I think it's the power steering one just there, 13mm ring spanner on this bolty shaped thing on the bottom here. Pop it on there, give it a twist, and that slackens it off, hopefully enough to undo it. Then we've got tension number 2, which is on the auxiliary belt for the alternator, and that is down here. A little bit harder to put any tension on though. Definitely harder one-handed when you're holding a camera. Right, so I've popped the spark plugs out because I want to do a quick check. I've set the inlet and outlet marks on the timing wheels to match up here on the top of the car. So a previous person who's done this job has marked it with Tipex, helpfully, and there's also a TDC mark on the crank pulley down below, which I've also lined up. And I just want to double check this is all correct. So spark plugs are out. I'm using a soft plastic thing. I think my fingers are moving on the thing. There's actually 2 different heights to these depending on whether it was a coil pack or a basic plug lead, but these do feel as though, to within a couple of millimetres, these are all basically decked, or as decked as we're going to get them. So let's leave that in there for the moment so I don't mix them up and lose them. Also, putting those back in there keeps debris out of the cylinders for the minute. So I've already slackened and then retightened very loosely this thing so I can then check the timing is in place. I can use this thing now to pop that off. And what I've done is I put the car handbrake on into reverse so it doesn't move, and keep this all together so that we keep the washer the right way around on there. Thank you, Big Draper, whatever model you are. Now into the lower timing cover and the timing belt itself. So I'll pop this cover off and then we can get to the belt itself. You know, I just said it was really easy to get the next bit done and just pop that lower cover off. The final bolt for taking that lower cover off is impossible to get to. It's just below it where the head of this socket is. Ah, man alive, trying to reach that is it's not easy, let's put it that way. My hands are too big for that gap. Righty-ho, now we've got that all free, and blimey, that was a task and a half. Basically, it's now early afternoon, and I've spent all day just taking that plastic stupid cover off. Anyway, now the heavy lifting can begin. This engine mount has to come off, so I've got my oldest jack because it might be out here overnight. I don't want to get stolen, I always worry about that. I'll find a block of wood and support the bottom of the engine. Then we can get the impact driver and undo these bits, undo this, move that away, and then I've lost it, and I've got a sprocket locking tool to slide in here and keep these wheels from turning. When we did the coupe with its T-Series engine, the locking tool is actually a bit different, and I haven't got one, so I used about 9 cable ties to tie the sprockets together, and it actually worked really well because the car still runs and doesn't explode. Big chunk of wood under the engine, so I can now take off the thing and it can collapse in its own time. Right, this appears to be a 15mm, and do you remember back in the old days of these videos when I didn't have impact sockets and you told me off all the time for not using impact sockets? Well, now you can't tell me off. I don't know what you're watching for still, to be honest. Right, that's easy. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. Why did the book tell me to undo that one when you can't get a socket onto it? Oh, engine slightly moved. Right, so now the engine is basically hanging loose in the air and only that dodgy old Halford's jack is keeping it in place. And now I really wish I put a decent draper one underneath it. Right, so I just undid these two bolts on the top that go to the flexible mount, attach it to the flexible mounting, and now I can just lift it out and sort of clear-ish. There we go, clear. All good, so now that's out. I can get my locking tool, pop that in there, and that means the engine can't turn now. Fantastic. Now I can start working on taking all the top end apart. Rightio, so I've just slackened off the tensioner retaining bolt, and then I can use this little 6mm Allen key to tighten or loosen the tensioner, take the tension off. I can in fact now take out the tensioner entirely and take the belt off. Right, so this is the old timing belt. It actually feels a little bit oily and greasy, which isn't particularly good. And there's actually a fair amount of oil in here, so I'm guessing that I'm seeing RTV, as in like silicone gasket, squirting out of the head joint between the head and the block, which is not ideal. It doesn't put me in mind of a great deal of confidence of the garage that previously did this. I was about to say, the book says to throw away this tensioner retaining bolt. I haven't checked whether the kit for a new tensioner comes with a bolt or not, so I won't bin it just yet. Off comes the belt, so I'm keeping an eye on the routing, so it goes long straight run down to the bottom on the crank pulley, straight across the top. The smooth back of it goes around the tensioner, and the tooth side goes around the water pump just down. Now I've got to say, this does feel a little bit, I don't know, it's not cracked or anything, it doesn't feel as flexible as I would like it to feel, considering I'm assuming it was replaced in 2019, because the head was done in 2019. And I did ring the garage up and I did say, would you have changed the timing belt, because there's no receipt for it. They said there's no way they'd have put a used timing belt back on, so this can't be more than 5 years old. But it just doesn't feel very flexible. Right, now we get into the bit of the job where we're just undoing and disconnecting loads of stuff. So first off, there's this sensor connection here to disconnect. Then, what else do we disconnect? These hoses I did loosen off already when I was going to move before I turn the car around. Take them off, and I've marked up all these so I know which holes they go back in again later on. In typical Haynes manual style, the book does kind of jump from section to section, and I realised nowhere had it mentioned draining the cooling system, so I thought I'd better quickly go and do that. And I did that by getting underneath, taking that lower panel off, which sits underneath the front of the car, and then pulling off the radiator hose. I discovered though that if you undo the air hose from the intercooler, it does very little indeed to drain the radiator. And now I can crack on, and I've got a number of choices here. As far as taking the exhaust manifold off, you can unbolt it at the head itself, or you can unbolt it at the turbo, or you can unbolt it at the downpipe. I think I'm going to have to take the starter motor off anyway. I haven't read that far ahead on this one, but I think I'll take the starter motor off and then unbolt the manifold at the head itself. I think that's going to be the easiest one for access. Alternator is pushed off to the side, so I'm doing quite so many things. What I've got here now is a whole bunch of 15mm bolts holding the manifold onto the head. Now, I've soaked these for the last couple of weeks in Bulldog, so they shouldn't be too hard to come undone. It is a really awkward position though. Over in the barn, I've got a really useful sort of 3 or 4 centimetre stubby extension, which is absolutely perfect for this, but it's not here, it's over in the barn. What I might do is take a little break and go over and get it, because I need to go and get all the t-shirts and mugs at the barn as well. Because tomorrow is set-up day for the NEC. I'm not going to get this done in time before the NEC. I did have half in mind that this might get it done in time, but I need to go and get the stuff at the barn, so I might go and take a break and do that. Try and do it with a wobbly thing, and that's not really working out too well. Alright, to try and get one of them undone at least. Oh, actually, yeah, that's surprisingly not too tricky, thanks to the dousing in Bulldog it's had. See if any of those will come loose. No, that's a fraction too short. Oh, come on. Last one, I think. Wow. Thank you, Bulldog. They all came undone really easy. I was dreading that. I thought it was going to be an absolute nightmare of a job, but they've all come undone really quite easily. Didn't think that was going to go smoothly at all. Maybe it's because the car had a new head in 2019. Maybe it's because I've been soaking it in Bulldog for 2 weeks. Maybe it's a bit of both. Right, so hello again, back after the NEC. So this one-day job is taking slightly longer than planned. I started this just before the NEC and I had to stop because of the NEC, so a day loading the car, day driving up and preparing, 3 days at the NEC and the day after just kind of unwinding and unpacking, and now I'm back on the job again and the weather has taken a decided turn for the worse. It's blooming freezing. Anyway, I'm back where I left off before the weekend and things have all gone a little bit suboptimal. I had, before the weekend, I can't remember what I said last time, I'd undone all but one bolt, or nuts, I should say, on the exhaust manifold. So I'm going to be detaching the manifold from the head and then detaching it from the turbo, which you can't see because it's dark. There are 3 bolts on the turbo. The 2 that are easily accessible just undid instantly. The one you can barely get anything onto because of the exhaust manifold rolling on top of it and because of there's no access. That one feels like it's been pretty well, it's just welded in place and it won't undo, and it feels like it's just, you know, starting to round off. I have tried soaking it in Bulldog all weekend. I have had it with the heat extraction tool as long as I possibly can. Obviously I've had the cable pulled out of the way. I've tried 12mm, 13mm, I've tried spanners, sockets. It will not move and I don't want to damage it. Trying to look at how else I can go about doing this. I can undo the exhaust pipe, so that is then kind of free, but there are, because it's a turbo, we've got the hard oil pipes going to the turbo, which I don't want to be trying to flex, and because those will break. It's a little bit awkward really, so because it's a turbo model, really I have absolutely got to be undoing the turbo from the manifold and lifting the manifold either off with the head or separating the turbo and the head manifold as 3 separate items. But either way, that's got to come undone and it won't do it and I'm getting cross. I'm going to go indoors and have a cup of tea. It is done. You'll notice our old friends here, the Bulldogs and the induction tool, have been working hard. Also the large to medium to small extension thing, it is finally released. So that took some doing. In the end, I bathed it in Bulldog again overnight, got it red hot, bathed it again to cool it down, got it red hot again, bathed it again, repeated, left it overnight, came back to it this morning, again got it very, very hot indeed. Then I got, it should be a 13mm, so I got a 12mm, hammered it on to the red and hot nut, which you can see it's taken a bit of a beating just there, and finally that is free. Why is it that it's always the least accessible nut or bolt that gives the most trouble, that the one that everything else just undoes easily? That one, that took hammers, heat, lubricant, the works. Now, hopefully I can get the manifold out now. This was the point at which I could easily lever the exhaust manifold away from the engine and lift it off the engine. Except, dear reader, it wasn't, because of course there is a 4th bolt down there facing downwards and totally inaccessible, which I can't get to. And I've just cut my hand up trying to reach it. Well, this is the point where I discover that there are actually 4 bolts in that manifold to turbo bracket after all. I mean, it did seem a bit odd, there's only 3, but of course the 4th one isn't on the top, it's underneath, and it's only a 6mm this time, not a 12 or a 13 like the ones on top, so really tiny, and of course completely welded in place. So yeah, what I'm thinking I might have to do is in fact take the head off with the manifold just kind of resting on the manifold studs, lift it away, then once the manifold's free, have a crack at getting in there, because I'm trying to go in from underneath. And do you know what? It's no fun. And it's been raining, and the ground here is actually wet, because it just is. And the wind has got up, and it's about 8 degrees, and it's blooming freezing. Yeah, this is all classic furious driving now. You know, it wouldn't be a furious driving video if it wasn't painfully cold and impossible to get bolts undone. So yay, yay. Bear in mind, this head was only done in 2019, I think, or 2018, so not that long ago, and only a couple of thousand miles. So I'm wondering if the garage that did the head did it this way. They just pulled the manifold free and just lifted it around it. I'm guessing it must be how they did it. I wonder if that's why the head gasket failed again. Right, moving on to the next bit. As I say, the plan with the manifold, because I cannot get that bottom underneath bolt out, is to lift the head off, and then once I've got clearance from having a bit of space, have a go at getting that undone. Otherwise we're just going to have to ratchet strap the manifold away from the engine and put it back on again and not disconnect it at all. Anyway, inlet manifold now coming off. This I disconnected with this little tool here, which is one of those things you buy for a job and then completely forget about until you have that similar job again 3 years later. This I bought for the convertible car, Quentin the Cabrio, because I was trying to connect and reconnect the fuel lines into the fuel tank on the several times. I had to take that in and out because the pump was defective, and the replacement pump was defective again as well, and then the replacement pump had a dodgy sender on it. So yeah, that was fun times. Anyway, yeah, I bought that for that, and this has come in handy for disconnecting this pipe here. Now I've undone all 7 of the bolts that hold the manifold on. As I said in the previous video, or the beginning of this video, this is the wrong battery for this. Well, I did just go and find this old one in the barn, which is 075, which is the correct size for this car. I think it's technically dead because I took it out of something else, but it does hold enough of a charge to jumpstart a car from, so maybe it'll get me going on this one for the time being. Anyway, don't believe the evidence of your own eyes that there are only 5 bolts, because there are 3 up top, and you can see 2 underneath, but there are 2 that are hidden, and they're quite fiddly to get off, and then this should just lift away from the engine. Let's press something else I've not undone, and try and do this one-handed. It's going to go wrong. Now, the reason we have tripods for this kind of stuff, but yeah, this will lift off in a moment. It was an electrical connection that was holding it back. Now, looking at this green gasket, that's not fared well, so luckily I think there's a new one of those in the rebuild kit from GMG RS, so that will go on in there. Incidentally, have I mentioned that all the Draper tools and others that I'm using on here are available in the Amazon affiliate store? And I'm using these because they're good quality tools at a good price. I'm not sponsored by Draper, but anything you buy on Amazon does put a little tiny kickback of a couple of pennies, literally pennies, of any purchase off Amazon back into the Furious Driving Fund to keep on keeping this stuff going. And even if you click onto those links and then buy something totally unrelated, I get a smaller kickback because I've put you into Amazon in the first place. And that's basically one of the ways to keep this channel going. I'm not at work today, I'm standing in the cold fiddling with an old Rover, and that's how I afford to do it. Please look on Amazon. And this, by the way, is the D20 powered work light, so it's multiply flexible in every direction you care to name, and runs on the same D20 batteries as the grinders, impact wrench, drill, hot air gun. So now, finally, after, I don't know, it seems like about 2 weeks, because I started ages ago, took a week waiting for the locking wheel nuts and get the wheel off, took me a couple of days to get that exhaust bolt out, which turned out I didn't need to do because still can't get the 4th one out anyway, and I still need to go underneath there and try and get this manifold out so I can refit more easily. Took about 5 days out for the NEC. So yeah, this one afternoon's worth of work has now taken about 2 weeks, but finally we can get to the fun and exciting part of actually getting to the component we want to change, which is the head gasket. Now for that, fortunately, I do have the special tool. Rover does love a special tool. This is the E12 star socket, which is a, don't know if you can see that or not, probably isn't showing up at all on there. A little cookie cutter kind of a shape. But the head bolts are all that same weird cookie cutter shape, so we're going to use that. Fortunately, I had one of these because I bought it for the 200 VI when I did the engine on that, and also, weirdly, the Freelander, the prop shaft, the drive shaft to the back of the car, that uses E12 and E10 type bolts, sockets like that as well. So, fortunately, I had it for that. Now, what we're going to do is use the very specific number pattern on here, otherwise you wind up warping the head. So we're going to follow that exactly. That's the retightening order, and we're going to do that in reverse. That's what it says in here. Right, so now this is where the beep gets real, as they say. Well, so I'm going to slacken in order. So 10 is bottom left. I was going to do a couple of turns of each. 9, where's 8? 7 above it. 6 back here again. 5 above that one. Oh, blimey. Right, so they are all now undone. Now, I was re-watching John Coupland's dad taking the 75, his 75 header apart the other day, and they did it the way of taking the cam carrier separately off it, and I didn't want to do that because I thought that's extra layer of work I didn't need to do. But I did get to the point where I had to turn the camshafts to release these two bolts just here, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to be able to put that back into the car connected. I may be able to, but if I put this back as one unit, I'm not sure I can work against the valve springs to get that back into the correct position on there. Luckily it's all got markings on there so I can find my way back onto there on the wheels. But yeah, interesting. Anyway, second thing of course is, are these original Rover? John Coupland's dad again, he used to work at the Rover, and he said that there were marks on the bolts for setting them and tightening them up, because you do them up to certain Newton meters and you turn them another sort of X number of degrees, and these haven't got any marks on them at all. That one, hang on, has that got a mark? I can't really tell. No, it just looks like scrapings. Hang on, pub. It looks like it says pub on it, but I don't know if it's a maker's marker or something that someone stamped on it over the time. So now I need to look at whether or not I can refit this head with the cam carrier attached. Is that a thing that's doable or not? And secondly, do I replace these bolts? Because these are the head bolts, are also the entire engine bolts, which are very oily indeed, all the way to the bottom I notice. Because on a K-Series engine it's built like a big lasagna. All the layers bolt together, and these are the clamping force that holds the entire engine into one piece. There's quite a lot of force going against these things. And yeah, they do say at the Rover main dealers they would replace these as a matter of course with every head removal. However, not everyone does that, and we didn't do that when we did the 200 VI. And my friend who helped me, hi James, he didn't think we needed to, and he's done like triple figures of these engines over the years, and doesn't, unless there's a particular reason to, change these bolts. So there we go, we'll think about it. Okay, now this is the moment of truth, almost, because the book says you have to work it off and put big levers into holes somewhere and then try and release it. But I just gave it a little move and the thing just came loose, and there's a gush of water running onto the floor. I've just realised that there is another bolt down there holding the plastic timing cover onto the engine, I think. Oh, it's down there. Oh god, there's so many bolts in this silly timing cover. Oh, please don't be another one. I was on the back, oh for crying. Why are there so many bolts on this plastic cover? That one, as much for my reference as anything else, is a silver one rather than the black one, and it's really long. Can we finally lift this thing clear? Yes, we can. Oh no, it's still stuck on something. What's it stuck on? Oh no, it's just catching on this silly cover. Okay. Oh, that's full of water now. Well, there we go. The head is off. I can't see, looking at this, where any specific blow-by or leakage would have been. I mean, that's full of water, but that's from lifting it all off a minute ago. On the back of this, I can't see. Can you guys see where it's coming through? But can you guys see where the blow-by was? Looking for some kind of path between the cylinder wall or two waterways or oilways. But I can't. Well, everything's wet, but that's because it's all just come apart. There's no smoking gun, so to speak. Does all need. Oh, this is a multi-layer, isn't it? Oh, okay. Oh, so oh god. So this could be. What is it? Ugh. Is there meant to be this much instant gasket on a multi-layer gasket? Has someone just put a load of silicon sealant on this thing, or is this actually how it's meant to be? Because that looks like, with all squelched down the side, this looks a bit kind of like someone's bodged it. Surely not. Anyone tell me the answer to that one? That's a little better, that's all mopped out. The water jacket is full of water because there's more water than blue roll in the world. You can see all this horrible gunky silicone-y stuff. Let's zoom in for you. All around where the head bolts were. So that's going to take a lot of cleaning up. And the big question now is, of course, is the head bent or not? Because if it's gone warpy, then we've got a problemy. So, got a straight edge, not all the way across, but yeah, that seems to be like it's straight. I've not got any rock or wobble in it. I mean, it's not the most scientific of tests, but if that was moving at all, if that was rocking left to right, end to end, then I'd have a problem. But I don't appear to have any of that. It feels like we're good, which is a massive relief, because I've not now got to go and get this thing skimmed, which would be expensive and time consuming. Okay, this is now where I'm going to pause this video. Thank you so much to DMGRS for supplying the new head gasket and these new rubbery bits to go in there, because that's all gone horrible, and the rest of the kit to rebuild this. But this has taken a lot longer to get to this point than it really should have done, because if you book time, this is going to be about 6 hours or something, but it's taken a long time because of frozen, rusted up bolts and things, as is often the case with cars as they get a bit older. So this is part one. I wanted to do this as a single part video, but we've still got an awful lot of cleaning up and tidying up and recommissioning to make this all go back together again and restart the car. So this is the end of part one. Part two will be in a couple of days' time. Now, the question is, which I'm sure you're going to be asking 1,000 times over in the comments, what's going to happen to this car? Because the intention was to sell it ages ago, and well, in theory I should still be selling it now. And the answer is, I don't really know. I'm very torn with this particular car, because I know I need to sell it in order to keep the trading up series from last year going on. I haven't got room to keep it. It's another modern saloon that I don't need. I need a very fuel efficient large estate that's ULEZ compliant. This is only one of those three. However, it is a beautiful car. You get in this car and it feels like a really, really special place to be, which is not something you can say of every car. So, I don't know. The plan is to sell it, but I don't really want to. That is the short answer at the moment. If I happen to win the lottery tonight and can get myself a nice barn somewhere to keep it safe and just keep on collecting, then yeah, brilliant. I will go for keeping it as long as possible. I know a lot of the car's history. I know it's a really good example of one. Got stacks and stacks of paperwork to go with the thing. It's been a local car all its life. The old man who had it before me, he lived a couple of villages along, so it's been a really local car its whole life as well. So it would be lovely to keep it, but financially and physically in terms of storage, I'm not sure that's going to be doable. So I don't know. Tricky one really. But anyway, right, join me again in a few days' time when I come back to putting everything back together again, fitting the new head gasket, talking everything down, fitting a new water pump, rebuilding it all, and then getting a bit of rust proofing going on inside the wheel arches. And I'm not going to mention the fact I dropped a spanner on the wing. I might need to go and get a dent man to come and look at that. It's very minor, you probably wouldn't even notice it, but I will every time I see it. This is going to take a while to get cleaned up to the point we can reassemble it. Also, I need to find out if I can reassemble it with the cam carriers in position, or if I'm going to have to take them apart as well. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping there's a workaround for that. Okay, right, thank you for watching. Oh, the Alpha 159, I've not featured that for a few days, partly for the same reasons. This has been delayed, the NEC, real work, but also I've been trying to find a solution. Members and Patreons, I told you at the beginning of the week that I think I might have an answer to that, thanks to Jamie at Go Italia. He's had to think about it and thinks he might have a solution for me. But hey, that's a job for another day. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, join me again very soon. We'll hopefully have 75 brimming along nicely. Thanks for watching.